Matthew chapter 9. I want to think about the last few verses in Matthew 9. But when he saw the crowds, he was moved with compassion for them because they were distressed and scattered as sheep not having a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest indeed is plentiful, but the labourers are few. Therefore ask the Lord of the harvest that he will send out workers into the harvest." So I think the idea there is that there are many people out there who could be converted, who could be part of the harvest when Jesus returns, but the extent of God's saving plan is limited by the labourers. The workers, the labourers were few. And that word for few has the idea not only of numerically few, but of being weak. So on one hand, God is sovereign. God can do what he wants. But it seems that he always chooses to work through people. And as soon as you work through people and allow them genuine free will, well, you're limited by your employees, by your workers. And I guess if God didn't work like that, then he would be forcing or imposing his will upon us. And he wants us to be willing workers together with him. In fact, Paul uses just that idea, I think, when he says that we are workers together with him. So the size and the quality of the harvest depends upon the workers. That's the idea. And the workers are few and weak. And Jesus told another parable about him calling people to work in the grape harvest. And again, he couldn't get enough workers. He kept going to the marketplace to get almost anyone to come and work for him. Grapes have to be harvested at a specific time. If there aren't enough workers, the harvest won't be gathered. And that encourages us to be absolutely willing workers with God and with Jesus, because he, as it were, depends upon us. Now, when you first hear that idea, it is admittedly rather strange that God Almighty, the God who can do anything, depends upon us to do his work. And if we don't do it, then the job doesn't get done as it could have been done. The harvest isn't fully harvested. But once we get used to this idea, then we are encouraged to really give our whole heart and soul to God's service, especially in sharing the gospel with others. In doing the work of this harvesting, if we don't do it, in that sense, it won't be done. And that's a sober thought. God, in his wisdom then, has structured his purpose like this, so that, in a sense, God is in need of man. God, in that sense, wishes to depend upon us. And the extent that his glory is achieved, the number of people saved, all to some extent depends upon the effort we make in harvesting the harvest. So, as Jesus says, we should not only dedicate ourselves to harvesting men and women for Jesus, but we should pray that more workers will be sent out. That's because we want to see Jesus glorified to the maximum extent, so that the maximum harvest is brought in, because that will give God more glory. And that really is what our lives are all about.